message. Facebook.
Yeah, it's Facebook. Okay.
Kill Facebook. Sorry guys, if you're on Facebook, please head over to YouTube.
Okay, we need to figure that out. Facebook's ruining our live streams lately. There we go. Okay, we're still.
It's still at 98.
No.
Okay, there we go.
I think
it
it
went
exploded.
down.
Broke itself for a second. All right.
Okay, we are live. Audio, video, everything should be working.
Everything
on YouTube.
should be working. Hello, guys. Welcome to YouTube Land, the UF Disciple channel. We are live now. What's going on? Byron, you still seem like you're really tired from that Resident Evil live stream.
Yeah, we played Resident Evil on Friday night from 10 p.m. all the way through to 6 a.m. in the morning.
Yep.
Not including the fact that like Friday morning I stayed up till 5 a.m. already anyway. And yeah, so it's kind of like one of those rolling effects.
But we're dropping frames, which doesn't make any sense. All right, that should be good.
Okay, are we still live?
We should be still live. Why? I was on my LTE, not my fiber. I think we're on my fiber now.
Either way,
there we go.
It's
Hello.
It's like an avalanche where it's like one little snowball keeps rolling and kind of just gets worse and worse.
Yeah, when you don't get the proper amount of sleep. I, however, on the other hand, know how to recover from nights like those.
No, not
You
me.
stay up all the way through the day, and then you go to sleep. Youngins.
I'm joking.
I have children, man. I have responsibilities. I had to stay up during the day, and then you go to bed 7, 8 o'clock. Everything's fine.
I couldn't handle it.
Then you get like a 14-hour sleep.
I've pretty much like become a night owl at the moment. That I've gone to bed like 3, 4 every morning since, and then I wake up really late. Well, not that late, like before noon kind of thing in the day, but like later than I should be waking up.
Yeah.
So it's still been affecting me. I'm a little bit tired.
Yeah.
I'm okay though. Like I'll survive. I'll survive.
Okay. All right. So anybody who is joining us on the YouTube channel,
Welcome.
Please head on over to the Discord server for your chat needs so that you can chat with us about things that are going on with the stream as well as during the week. If you have anything else going on, we check it periodically to just make sure we're staying in contact with the community. So please head on over to that Discord link so that we can chatify everything. Chatify.
That sounds like an app.
Probably is.
Probably is.
I mean, Spotify and chatting, it's mixed together.
It's WhatsApp, Spotify.
You can only
talk through music.
No, you can only speak in lyrics.
That'd be pretty cool. But that's like everything.
See. Okay.
Probably. Topics.
Topics.
What are we talking about this week?
Do we just want to jump into it? Is that what's going on? We don't have an intro. We don't have a.
Well, we don't have an outro. We don't have an intro.
What are we?
We are B-roll.
Okay.
What was it you said last time? The tech channel where facts don't matter?
Fair enough.
Something like that.
We have alternative facts here.
Yeah, pretty much. We just Google things and just randomly make up
stuff. If you say we're wrong, we say you're just not seeing the other side of the truth.
You're just not Googling well enough.
Fair enough. All right. So first article comes from the San Francisco Bay Area. Carbon monoxide poisoning killed Berkeley couple, which admittedly doesn't sound like a tech headline. Somebody died from carbon monoxide poisoning. Well, lo and behold, you find out that it was their 3D printer that produced the carbon monoxide, vented into their house, and unfortunately caused the couple to die with their 2 cats. Apparently, I think it was overnight. They probably left their printer on to print something overnight, didn't have any ventilation going on, and unfortunately they died. So I mean, it's just the same with laser printers. Like toner is bad for your health for you to breathe that in.
But toner doesn't like secrete or whatever you want to call it like into the atmosphere.
No, it'll give you cancer when you're 70. It's not gonna like kill you overnight. Whereas carbon monoxide, you can't see it. Yeah. Which is why they have carbon monoxide detectors. But this is kind of a setback for 3D printing. Like it's.
Do you think it's going to go big, like as much as last year's explosions, that kind of thing? Like, do you think this is going to reach a high like level of publicity in a negative way?
I don't know, because I haven't heard much about this on like the mainstream channels, like news channels. So I'm not sure it's going to get a lot of like coverage,
negative press or whatever.
Yeah, it could blow up, but at the same time, like nobody's been fearful of 3D printers. So
I think it's kind of like
such a high-end niche item at this point.
I don't even think so. I mean, like if you look at what the price of 3D printers have come down over like the past 2 years, they're definitely more consumer prices already. Like you're spending more on a smartphone than you are on a 3D printer, and people are worried like smartphones exploding, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like I think it's more, it's not like a negative press thing where it's like you should be worried about your 3D printer, because like Samsung, oh your phone's gonna explode, 50-50 chance. 3D printer, you dying, I'm sure it's like not even 1%. I think it's more just like a wake up call. Like,
Yeah.
hey guys, if you have a 3D printer in your house,
Vent your house.
vent it properly, have some form of a container for it, let the air go outside, whatever,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's more just a wake up call for people that it's like, you can't use this
It's,
machinery in your home and just expect nothing bad to happen.
yeah, that's kind of like I had no idea that it even expelled carbon monoxide as a waste.
I
Which
was under the impression it was all just like natural stuff, because I mean, isn't PLA or one of the ABS, I don't know, supposed to
it
be...
might have to do with the specific plastic that they were using. The San Francisco Bay website doesn't really give a technical analysis as to what 3D printer they were using, what filament they were using, what type of print head. Like it's not like that, but it is a concern.
Well, either way, like, even if it's a natural thing, so is carbon monoxide.
Yeah.
Like, it's a natural occurrence, so I don't know. Not
Yeah.
in massive quantities, but
Yeah,
like,
not enough to kill you usually. All right.
it's pretty interesting.
All right, so let's get into the meat of this week's discussion. Fallout 4 is getting a high resolution texture pack next week on PC, which will require you, one, it's free and it's by Bethesda. This isn't a mod, but it's going to require.
Which is the first time.
Is
I
it?
mean, usually there was like mods for high texture packs for like Oblivion and Skyrim. And that
No,
kind of
like
thing.
this is a good thing. Like I applaud Bethesda for actually keeping up with the game and not just letting it die after it released in November of 2015.
2015,
Yeah, like
yeah.
it's a year and a half old at this point. No, like a year and 2 months.
You're in like 2 months, yeah.
Sorry. But like they're not letting it die, which is good. But you need 58 additional gigabytes for this high res pack. You can turn it off if you need to.
I don't think
but
the game is that big.
no, I don't think it was at all.
Probably not.
So if we look at what the specs are for this, the recommended specs for your CPU, you need an i7 5820K or better. That's a 6-core processor, is it not?
12 threads.
12 threads. You need
Or better.
Yeah, or better.
That's pretty crazy.
As a minimum, 8 gigabytes of RAM, a GTX 1080, 8 gigabytes, or Bethesda. What is going on here? Listing an AMD Radeon RX 498 gigabyte graphics card. So while we haven't gotten
Any
official
official,
specs from, okay, so this is just an additional article from Reddit that screenshot this before it was taken down. I guess they also captured the original. But this is from Bethesda specifically saying that you would need an RX 490. And while AMD hasn't come out saying what the specs of their Vega GPUs are going to be, they have shown them off a little bit at their events, and they've shown they showed a Vega GPU running Doom in Vulkan, getting the same or better frame rate than the GTX 1080 at 4K, with ultra settings.
And I mean, this is definitely aimed towards 4K. It's high resolution pack.
Yes.
Like, this is not for 1080p gaming at all.
Yeah. So it kind of looks like that the RX 490 will compete with the GTX 1080 in specific games. Like if Bethesda is saying it's going to be on par in Fallout 4, and then AMD is saying it's going to be on par in Doom with Vulkan, there's a good indication that it's going to be above a 1070, but less than a 1080, probably most of the games that you play.
NVIDIA is usually the one that gets optimized for every game on launch. That's the unfortunate truth.
Right.
But like that, yeah, because this 480 is kind of closer to a 1060 more than it is to a 1070. Like maybe there's one or two games like Deus Ex that it's closer to a 1070. But I mean that's definitely a case here, because if they're showing that it's a 1080 or some other GPU, which I mean now it's the 490, it definitely shows it's closer to a 1080 than it is to a 1070. Otherwise, the recommendation would be a 1070.
Right. Yeah, like,
you know what I mean, for comparison on either side.
because it's not just about the VRAM, which I had somebody already say in the YouTube comments. They said, "Oh, well, it just requires 8 gigabytes of VRAM." Then why aren't they recommending the GTX 1070? Because that has 8 gigabytes of VRAM, and so does the RX 480, and so does the RX 470. It's not just the amount of VRAM. Yes, you're going to need that for the high resolution texture pack, but both NVIDIA and AMD also have 8 gigabyte cards already. So I'm gonna put Vega as like It's going to be above a GTX 1070 in most games, and it's going to be on par with the GTX 1080 in some games.
But
But
no,
hopefully it's cheaper, like $400.
so just a kind of like a rough comparison.
Yeah.
A 1060 to a 1080, it's kind of like roughly half, right? In terms of the
Wait,
1060 of a 1080.
sort of, yeah.
It's kind of like let's say 60%, 40%, whatever, depending on the game, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That kind of means that the 490 would be almost double a 480.
Which is unprecedented because the 390 wasn't double the 380 at
No,
all.
that's not normal at all. Like I mean, unless it was called a 495 or 495X or whatever it was, because I mean, like the 2 series, like I think it was a 295. There was two 290s.
Right.
But a 290 to a 280 was nowhere near a double performance gap because the
Right.
270 was half of a 290.
Yeah, it doesn't look like this is going to be a double GPU at all. But, you know, it's...
I'm worried about it because then it's kind of like it's like this kind of scenario where Deus Ex is the one game where 480 is like beating a 1070.
Not the one game, but yeah, I understand what
Practically.
you mean. Okay.
It's basically the one game.
And
now all of a
Vulkan
sudden
and Doom, yeah.
But like
Okay.
using that as an example, then it's like, isn't that a bad example? To say it's kind of performance. Because now that's like the worst case scenario, well, not worst case, best case scenario, I guess. Where it's like the difference between a 480 and a 490
Yeah.
might not be that huge. It just might be that specific game that it's already doing that well at.
It's possible. It's possible, but as far as I remember when I did my test for Fallout 4, it was pretty closely split across both. Like they were performing about where they should be.
As in like 60, not 70. The 480.
Well, this was Maxwell versus the 3 series.
Okay.
Um,
But things have changed.
Things have changed, but at the same time, as far as like Bethesda optimizing the game, it seemed to be well balanced for either, and the drivers have matured since then.
Look, I'm hopeful. I mean, if a 490 is going to be the performance of a 1080,
Yeah, I think
and guaranteed cheaper.
it's definitely going to be cheaper. I think so. Thinking about the way AMD positioned themselves with Polaris when Pascal got released, they didn't try to compete with the 1070 or the 1080. They were just like, we have the best value with the RX 480 at $200. Job's done. Which forced NVIDIA to release the 1060 a bit sooner than they were expecting. I think they delayed Vega so that they could get the performance on par with the GTX 1080. As a guess. Like, they want it to be that way. They're like, okay, forget our old patterns where the 390 and the 290 were just a step above the 280 and the 380.
Now we're going to go further.
Let's just go a little bit further, and then the 390X will be a little bit further. I don't know if they're...
It's a hopeful thing, to be honest. I
Yeah.
mean, it would be nice to kind of see like a big boost because, I mean, Maxwell already was pretty decent in terms of like a boost before that. Mobile,
Yeah.
specifically.
Well,
And then obviously again Pascal even more than that. Sorry, I don't know if you saw now as well. Did you see the news in terms of PS4 Pro?
really?
Yeah, so it says
Okay.
here as well that Fallout 4 goes Pro for the PS4. It'll also bring native 1440p resolution to it, enhanced draw distance.
Where are you seeing that? I don't have that
Same
article.
article. This is from the Reddit one.
I don't have that at all. What are you talking about?
That is
Oh,
so
okay,
strange.
I see it. Okay, I'll pull that up now. Okay, so this is what you're talking
I don't know
about.
why we skipped that. Yeah, I don't know. why we
Okay,
didn't
so
see
they're
that
also
yet.
going to be optimizing. Well, we wanted to talk about the 490 in Vega.
That's true.
So
That's true.
talking about the PS4 Pro isn't really the same thing. But that's good. So what was the issue with Fallout 4 and mods with regards to PS4? Didn't they like promise it and then take it away, or is that Skyrim?
No. So yes and no. There were some mods that were supported and some that weren't. But like the initial assumption was, hey, consoles are getting mods, and then it's like sky's the limit, you know?
Right,
And
especially
then
with the PS4 Pro and everything being...
more enhanced.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like Xbox had more opportunity, I guess you could call it, or whatever, like in terms of the mods that were available. I don't know the exact reason behind it. I don't know if it's licensing or whatever. I mean, they definitely work in different ways. But look, already it's kind of nice to see that not only PC, I guess, is like now getting an update. I mean, PlayStation's also getting an update for it.
Yeah.
So they definitely care about the old games.
Bethesda has done well as a game developer for actually taking care of the community. What they do, Skyrim, they do Fallout 4, they're responsible for Doom as well, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. So it seems like while they did remove the like prior to launch review cycles, and now like the reviewers get everything on day one, just like the consumers, it also doesn't seem like they're trying to screw the community over by taking that away.
Like I think a lot of it's warranted too, because you get reviewers that just hate the company. and I mean they're gonna give it a bad review
Yeah.
no matter what, and it's not always positive press that's even justified, or negative press that's justified. Sorry, but I mean something else like I remember when I was at E3, they announced that Fallout 4 was gonna get native VR support on Scorpio,
Okay.
and now
Wait, Fallout 4 is going to be in VR?
yes.
What?
Yes.
Okay.
And everyone was just that was still the thing that everyone decided, like on the spot or whatever, that what do you call it, Scorpio was gonna have native support for Vive and Oculus.
Okay.
Not confirmed,
Okay.
but it's because Fallout was supposed to have support for Vive, and then obviously Oculus had the Xbox relationship already,
Okay.
and then everyone was just like, oh wow, it's like they're just gonna work together or whatever. Did our video just freeze?
Froze again.
Our
Dang
video froze. Sorry guys, the video
What
should be back in a
stupid
second.
capture card.
But yeah, it just makes me think, because as far as I understand, those changes haven't happened yet. Obviously, Scorpio isn't out yet, but that means Fallout 4 is going to get another update, and that should be quite a large update. I mean, moving a game to be able to even virtual reality. I think some people don't really understand the concept. Your GUI has to change as well. Like you can't literally just port a game to virtual reality and expect it to work well.
Right.
I mean, like
It has even with Resident Evil, like you can tell they designed that game with VR in mind.
Yeah.
The textures are lower, everything's from the first person where you don't see anything, and then all of a sudden you stick your hand out like you have a controller.
I guess the easiest way to describe it is when 3D movies first started coming out, and they were done really poorly, and then you watched a 3D movie in 2D, and it was one of those like absolutely ridiculous moments of particles running through all the
Basically
screen.
every kids movie that
And you're like, this was made for 3D movies.
Yeah.
And it's like that's the thing, like you can see some games are made for VR, but like Fallout 4 wasn't.
Right.
So
I mean, it kind of has the feel where it's like the first person and you're always holding the gun.
with the
and
Pip Boy and that kind of thing,
Yeah.
true. But I mean, like the fact that now using Vive controllers, are you gonna like, because at E3 they showed like you could actually go inside of the Bethesda, what do you call it? Like there was these little rooms, and they had Doom in VR,
Okay.
which never ended up like amounting to anything.
Right.
And then
you
they
can't play that game in VR. It's too fast paced.
That's true.
You will barf.
And then they had Fallout there as well, and they were like, this is going to be like, what do you call it, retail at some point. It's not just a tech demo for now.
Well, given the fact that Bethesda is actually like going ahead and releasing a 58 gigabyte resolution texture pack update, I can see them still doing the VR thing, but I don't think it would be the entire game. It's probably going to be an experience.
Yeah, that's true. And you know, that actually annoys me, because it's like, let me actually quickly just double check if we're speaking about it later. The Resident Evil DLC. I don't think it's one of the things we're speaking about. Yeah, so Resident Evil had some new DLC that was announced as well now, and one of the new updates doesn't have VR support. So it's kind of like one of the
So the
side quests
DLC doesn't have
yeah,
VR
and
updates.
that for me was just like, what's the point? You know, like you
I get-
developed
I
this
mean, no,
pretty good
no.
game.
No, I mean, DLC is downloadable content. It's extra. It's added on. If it doesn't have all of the features of the main game, that's kind of the point. Like,
But isn't DLC usually the experimental kind of extras? I mean, at the end of the day, it's like
it depends on what
Final
the company wants to
Fantasy,
make
just a
it
normal
for.
game, and then there's a DLC for VR. And the same as like Battlefront, and then there's the X-Wing thing.
I don't think there necessarily needs to be a standard for what DLC is. As long
No, no,
as
it's
it's
true.
not the core game, you're just getting like part 2 of the core game in
I just-
DLC. It's like companies can use DLC for whatever they want. If Resident Evil is all of a sudden going to become an arcade shooter like the original Resident Evils, like as a DLC, that's totally fine. It changes the entire experience, but like it's
guess.
a cool DLC.
I guess my only problem with it is that like DLC having, let's say, VR, you got to play the game no matter what. But then it's like adding that little thing is just there. It's an afterthought, but the game they're still focusing on. Now the thing is, like, I can imagine a lot of people bought a PSVR and bought Resident Evil for the sake of just playing it in VR, and now they can't play the additional content.
I don't know.
It's just, it sucks. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, it's not necessary. I guess it's not necessary. I mean, you have the choice. You have the choice to pay for the DLC or not.
Right. It's not being forced upon you. It's
Not at
extra downloadable content. You're just complaining, Byron.
I like complaining.
You do.
So
You express your opinion in the form of
I
complaints.
always do. So what did you actually? While we're on the topic, I mean, what
Yeah.
did you think of Resident Evil?
What did I think of Resident Evil?
There were a lot of moments where you had to do
It
this.
was not what I was expecting. So like I was thinking the like zombie shoot 'em up, like a more refined Left 4 Dead with like a decent storyline. You know,
Okay.
like that was what I was anticipating.
More
And
zombies, you mean?
much more zombies, more action, and it turned to be this like survival horror, and that's not at all.
Psychological survival
Yeah,
horror,
that's not
actually.
because like you're sitting there like, is something gonna happen? Is something gonna happen? Something's about. Oh, nothing happened. What is going on? Like, I enjoyed the game, but at the same time, like totally different from what my expectations were. But I mean, to
In a
be fair,
positive light, though. At
in a
least.
positive light, like it was. It's not a bad game. It's not a game that I would play. Besides the fact that we played it together, but like,
Well, like, I mean, that's the thing. I got a review copy of the game, and as much as I wanted to review it, it's not the kind of game I'm used to or wanting to play.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't have bought it, I'll admit. I definitely think it's worth buying.
Yeah.
It's just not my kind of genre, and I mean, that's why I asked you to play with me, because I wouldn't have really wanted to play it by myself.
Right.
And, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I'm sure you can appreciate it, but it's not really your genre either, I
Never.
guess.
Yeah. Um, yeah.
Topics.
Okay, this is my genre. Zen, Ryzen. Here we go. Oh, I just moved that instead of stupid touchpad. What am I
Stop
doing?
moving things.
What is going on? Okay, so AMD won't be releasing a 6-core Ryzen CPU. This is a rumor. So AMD, big news with Vega as well as Ryzen releasing. We know that the first CPU is going to be 8 cores, 16 threads, because that's what they've been pushing at every single demo, every single opportunity since like the end of November. Like they're just like 8 cores, 16 threads. It beats a 6900K.
Clock for clock.
Clock for clock, which is great.
Yeah.
But there's been quad core engineering samples being floating about, but nobody's really seen a hexacore anywhere. So the rumor is, according to reliable sources, is that they won't be making 6 cores at this moment with the Ryzen architecture, which like
I'm fine with that.
yeah, like it's kind of that weird in between. Like, who wants 6 cores? Like, AMD has done this before where they're like, we have a dual core, we have a quad core, and now we have a tri-core. It's like, okay.
Do
like,
you have any idea how badly that processor did everything?
like I guess you can have a tri-core. I guess you can have 6 cores. It's not a bad thing, but if that you know
But do you know why they had a tri-core?
to compete with Intel, I'm sure
Because it was a faulty quad core.
that makes sense. Yeah,
not even joking,
Yeah,
like-
binning process.
I had friends that bought the tri-cores just to attempt to unlock them to quad cores. And like some were successful, some weren't. But like I remember it was what do you call it, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1 days, and everyone complained about the performance of their PCs that had tri-cores. Those things were
Okay.
terrible. I mean, it's literally a dumbed down quad.
Right. Well, so
In that case.
you know what this would indicate to me personally, given the fact that this is a rumor that AMD won't be releasing 6-core Ryzens. My personal thoughts on this are that the reason they're doing this is because that 8 core is going to be so cheap. That 8 core is going to compete with the 7700K in terms of price. And there's no reason to release a SKU that has 6 cores because the pricing structure doesn't make sense. Because
The
there's
7700K is already an expensive CPU for the general
right,
consumer.
so they're gonna have their 4-core 8-threaded CPU competing with a mid-tier i5.
But then what's below that? Because AMD has always been the budget choice.
Right. So a
People are
4-core
buying i3s.
a 4-core. Well, so this is saying six cores. So
Yeah.
anything between 4 and 8 doesn't really necessarily need to be there if the
Yeah.
8 core is competing with an i7
Yeah.
and the 4-core 8-thread, the
Yeah.
i7 equivalent is competing with the i5.
But then what
Then
about
they
the guy
don't
that
need-
can only afford the i3?
They're gonna have less.
Oh, okay, 2-core.
Yeah,
Sorry,
no.
I'm not thinking of that. Yeah,
No,
I get
no.
what you mean.
AMD, like as far as I've read, they're gonna have quad cores, no hyper-threading. They're gonna have dual cores with
Sorry,
hyper-threading.
I wasn't thinking of lower
No,
for some
they're
reason.
going to have lower end.
I get what you
It's
mean.
just that if their flagship Ryzen CPU at this point is going to be competing with the 7700K in terms of price,
Yeah.
there's no room in their market to
Put
put
in
in a
between.
6-core.
Sorry, I get what you're saying. I forgot about the
Because the marketing even
I know
for
what
that is weird. Because then you're saying, oh, it's a 6850K equivalent that we're gonna be pitting against a high-end i5. Whereas like you could say you can get the performance of a 7700K for the price of a
Of an
60
i5.
or 7400.
Yeah.
and then they say, oh, you can get the performance of a 6600 or 7600K for the price of a low end i3.
Yeah.
Or high end Pentium now, since they have
whatever
threading.
purchase you make, it's going to be a better purchase budget wise to performance versus Intel.
That
At
would
least
be my
that's
guess.
the assumption.
Yes, and I've like, I'm not just pulling that competing against the 7700K out of thin air. Like I've been on a few forums where there's been reliable sources of information who have said that and have had to pull the information down because it's NDA information, you can't have it. But with that guy was right on every single other call as far as competing against the 6900K, as far as its 3.4 gigahertz base clock, the fact that they're struggling to get a proper boost clock, and then he also said 7700K is the price of AMD's flagship CPU, which is amazing.
The 7700K.
Of course it would. It's 8 cores.
Yeah.
Like if it's going clock for clock against the 6900K, there's no reason to buy Intel at that point, at that high end.
I don't think it's going to be the 6900K in terms of the final product because, let's be honest, they weren't looking at the actual clock speed of it. But at the same time, it's going to be the 6850K no matter what at the price of a 6700K.
No, I'm thoroughly excited for Ryzen. As long as the pricing gets done well.
It's all dual thread. I mean, dual channel, right?
Dual channel memory.
There's no quad channel.
No, I don't think there's quad channel. So there's still going to be reasons to go X99, but I don't see any reason to go Z270.
But if you're going X99, it's the highest end of X99.
Right.
You're like not entry level X99 at all.
Yeah, you don't need a 6850K. You're either going to get the 6900K for its quad channel, or you're getting the 6950X.
Or even 6800K becomes completely obsolete.
Yes.
That's cool.
I'm looking forward to it.
Look, they're still gonna.
What do you guys think? What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Give us your Goku, Gohan, Shock. What is going on in this Discord chat? I have no idea what's going on.
Remember, there's always like brand. I'm trying to think what the word is now. Like where people actually care about that brand no matter what. Like loyalty, I guess you could say. So people are still going to buy a 6800K. People are still going to buy a 6850, even if AMD beats it.
AMD has screwed their customers over before. So like, there's little brand trust as far as AMD CPUs goes. Like, I haven't seen a single person recommend you get an FX series processor ever since Skylake came out.
Yeah,
it's just not there. They haven't kept up with the times.
I've always gone for whatever GPU made sense at the time for my budget in terms of what performance I could get out of it. Single or dual slot kind of, not dual slot, dual solution, let me put it that way.
Yeah.
And I've had Crossfire, I've had SLI, but since like Athlon days, I haven't touched AMD again. Because even though like the FX 8350 or whatever on launch was better than some i5, I think it was second gen or whatever, I still like don't touch that with a stick because it's not going to be worth it long term.
Right. Like, what's the resale value of an FX series processor? Basically, nothing
AMD
at
gives
this
them
point.
away. AMD literally gives them away where they can.
Yeah. I am excited. Yeah, Ryzen's going to be pretty good, I hope.
It should be.
It should be.
I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be.
It can't be worse than the FX series. That's for sure.
And that's not the worst processor they ever made. I mean, seriously.
That's true.
But I think that's...
It's just long in the tooth at this point.
I think it even comes down to like... I was frustrated at first when there was an i3, i5, and i7. To me, I was like, what a stupid thing. Like, why is it these random numbers and like... Because I was used to like Core 2 quads and Core 2 duos and that kind of thing where the numbers went all the way from 2, let's say, to 9. And you just knew the higher number you went, it made sense. But eventually we got used to i3s and i5s and i7s, you know? The problem with AMD is that some people didn't even know what processor was better. Because there wasn't this actual like separation even in terms of like the SKUs where like, okay, here's the lowest end, here's the highest end. Because you could get an Athlon, which is a terrible process for today's standards, that was a quad core, but then you'd get like a Phenom, which was like the higher end, but it would be a tri-core. And like you didn't know which one to go for.
So the Phenom wasn't phenomenal?
Oh, wow.
You're welcome.
Not
you
phenomenal.
Are so welcome.
And I mean, that's the thing, like, looking right now, so there's...
Okay, let me pull this link up. Pulling up the link on Firefox. Please load. Okay.
So, I mean, you're paying 2,000 Rand for a 6-core processor. You're expecting that to be good.
Right, you're expecting that to be 6,800K almost. Yeah. Like, if you're an uninformed consumer.
Yeah, and meanwhile, it's trash.
It's like,
it's literally, like, we can say that.
Can we, Byron? Can we?
It is trash.
Well, like,
And that's the problem, that it's like no one really knew what the separation was, because even going from 8 series to 9 series, my friends were like, listen, should I upgrade? And it's like, you don't even know, because it didn't make sense.
right, like for me, just looking at it, the 8350 is at 4 gigahertz. The 9370 is at 4.4. Is it really just an overclocked 8350? Because that's what it seems. Like, I'm pretty sure that they haven't shrunken the die on this, and this is still 32 nanometers. Where's the... Yeah, it's still 32 nanometers, has 8 megabytes of cache. How much cache does this have? 8
Same
megabytes.
story.
So, I mean, I guess it could be...
Generational...
It could be equated to Skylake to Kaby Lake,
Yeah.
where it's just like, oh, now we have a new instruction set.
But
But
it
at this
wasn't
point,
supposed to be.
this is like 3 years old. Like, you don't have modern day instruction sets.
Yeah. Look, AMD has failed without a doubt when it comes to processors, and I mean even in like the high end market, in terms of talking like Xeon from Intel to I'm trying to think now, what is AMD's equivalent?
What, their server processors?
Yeah,
I have no idea.
I can't think of the word now.
I have
Starts
to
with an O, if I remember correctly. Oh, can't think of things today. I'm so sorry.
AMD server processors. Opteron.
Opteron, yeah.
Okay.
Those just kind of fell off the market, like completely.
Yeah.
So it's definitely cool to see that like Ryzen's most likely going to make a difference.
Hopefully. Please, AMD, don't let us down. You're our only hope. Because, like, I'm basically tired of Intel at this point as well. Like, I have zero reason to upgrade from my 6700K to a 7700K. It actually performs worse for my video editing workflow. It takes longer. That makes no sense for me.
But the main reason I think that even some people aren't upgrading, let's say from 4th gen Intel, is because they're looking at the comparison to AMD and going, well, I'm already still better than AMD at this point.
Yeah. Well, if you're on 4th gen Intel, like, to upgrade isn't just getting a new chip. You have to get a new motherboard. You have to get new RAM. And it's like, well, I could just wait out for Ryzen. Like, that's going to need DDR4. So let's just see how that goes.
Listen, quick question. Do you by any chance know if Kaby Lake has DDR3 boards? Because, like, you know how Skylake did have?
I'm fairly certain it doesn't. I think Skylake was the last generation where they're like,
phase it out.
We need to get rid of DDR3, so, like, we can support it, but we're not going to do it on most boards.
I was curious because a friend of mine now was going to go 7th gen, and he still has DDR3 RAM, and he was wondering if he could still utilize it. I'm like, I wouldn't recommend it, but if...
Well, even with Skylake, there were very, very few boards that actually supported DDR3 RAM.
There were some, at least.
In the mobile sector, it supported DDR3 SODIMM a lot more, but not in desktop. So I'm fairly certain Kaby Lake got rid of that altogether.
Okay.
Yep.
Next article.
So here we have Nextbit, which are the company behind the Robin smartphone, which I'll pull up over here, which is basically a OnePlus competitor, where it was $300 to $400. You got a solid phone, 1080p IPS panel, 13 megapixel rear facing camera, like
3 gigs of RAM.
Like everything is a pretty good spec. So this was, I believe, a Kickstarter initially. People actually really liked this phone. Like they
sold out.
Yeah, they delivered on what they said they were going to, which is like basically unheard of in Kickstarter terms. Oh, it doesn't actively. That's slow.
That's pretty attractive phone.
Yeah,
that actually kind of reminds me of Sony.
Yeah, to some extent. Yeah, I see that. So this is a OnePlus competitor, and Razer has gone ahead and purchased it. So there was also a tweet by their CEO Minling Tan. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Whatever. He put out a tweet, I believe, back in July, saying that they're looking for a mobile developer.
Okay.
So I think they've been kind of in the market for getting into smartphones for at least a little while now.
I'm assuming Nextbit was Android as well, not like Windows Mobile or anything.
Yes,
like that.
yeah, definitely. It was Android. So unlocked. Where's the?
Well, spec-wise, it looks like it. Oh, there we go. Robin Android. Whoa.
Where is it? Where is it?
Scroll down.
Oh, Robin Android smartphone. So they had their own launcher, but it was running Android. So I'm gonna make a joke. I stole it just to be fair, but here is a leaked picture of Razer's next phone, the Razer phone. I stole that joke. I had to. I saw it, and I thought it was too good. So thank you, random person on the Linus Tech Tips forum, for making that joke, so I could Hello.
Do you think any of them will get stolen at Computex?
Well, if they have 3 screens, yeah. That would be amazing.
A 3-screen phone.
Why not? Why not? That's
'Cause
basically the entire point. Why
all,
not?
all I want is a phone that can change from being full brightness, everything like normal, to changing to e-ink, but without using a different display.
So they had that. They had that.
My-
The Yoda phone.
Huh?
The Yoda phone. Oh, changing to a different display. Like flipping the phone over?
No. So what I mean is like, okay.
That's
you mean-
existed. Where one was, I think it was an OLED screen, and then the other
No,
side
not
was
that. Not that.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is I don't want to have to use 2 screens.
Oh.
And like, even though Samsung's got that like ultra low, what do you call it, power mode, the problem with it is you can't Instagram, you can't take photos, you can't do anything with it. And it's like when you're going away, you're on a long trip, and you can't, let's say, go charge your phone or whatever. It's useful. Like I used that feature once. I was on a
e-ink.
farm.
Yeah.
I was on a farm for the weekend. Not the e-ink. It's just the low power mode of Samsung's.
Right.
On the farm for the weekend, didn't have to charge my phone. Want to take a photo, I can't do it.
Right. So this is the phone that I'm talking about. So the front has an actual.
I heard about this thing.
Has an actual screen, and on the back is an e-ink for all of like your actual displays.
But the e-ink display probably couldn't do everything, I'm assuming.
No.
It's probably like one of those where it's many
The refresh rate
notifications
is 0.12 seconds.
8. So it's
Wait,
probably
I mean-
like 8 frames per second. Jeez.
I mean that's on par with how a Kindle displays. Like when you're reading a
guess.
Kindle, like loading to the next page isn't instant. Like you actually see it trying to wipe itself.
But there are e-ink displays that can push 30 frames per second, because I still saw one.
Are
where,
there?
Yeah, I saw one where a guy was playing Angry Birds on it.
No way.
Hacked it to Android and played Angry Birds.
I don't know. I actually would like this phone. It's just that it was like that battery life, 2,500 milliamp hours. That's not good. That's
the
good.
reason you're using that.
That's good on the e-ink side, but that's not good for the like actual smartphone side. So
No, not at all.
Like it was a good concept. I just don't think it was ever.
But there's been a lot of
Brought them.
concept phones. Like
Yeah.
more than concept. I mean, you're talking about the triple display laptop. There's been more concept phones than there's been
I
concept laptops.
so want that. 17 inches, 4K surround.
So having it right here,
Like that takes up this entire table. That would be amazing.
that would be pretty cool.
I would love that.
The cost is the issue with it, though. I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's going to cost at least twice your laptop's price. At least.
This is a 1080p screen. It's like
Yeah, but
just-
going from 1080p laptop to a 4K laptop, you don't double the price.
fair enough. But when you're adding 3, like it's
I guess.
yeah.
I guess time will tell. If Razer gets their units back. So ridiculous.
All right, moving on. Let's
Gaming.
go into some more Resident Evil stuff, but more focusing on the DRM stuff. So Denuvo, which I have a personal hate for, because with benchmarking, anytime you swap out RAM, it counts as a hardware change. And
What?
so if you swap out your RAM more than 4 times, which I do as a hardware tester, you get locked out of the game for 24 hours. This happened with Rise of the Tomb
What?
Raider. So Rise of the Tomb Raider is one of the Denuvo DRM
Yeah.
games. I was changing out different kits of RAM so that I could check timings and latency, like just a bunch of different stuff. Legitimately using it. I own Rise of the Tomb Raider. I own the hardware that I'm changing, and I get locked out of the game, and I have to send them an email, but it's probably going to take them just as long to respond the email as I can, like just to wait out the lock.
And even if you only have 2 sets and you swap between them back and forth, that counts
That
as a
counts.
change.
That counts as a hardware change.
So
you get-
basically, even just changing once and changing back is already 3 changes.
Yes. So I'm not at all advocating for downloading cracked games or whatever. I personally hate Denuvo for my own reasons. But so with Rise of the Tomb Raider, I think it took quite some time, 5 months after its release, for them to crack this DRM. And then for Doom, Mirror's Edge, Deus Ex, a bunch of the others, it took several weeks for them to crack it. Well, it turns out with Resident Evil 7, using the same DRM, they've cracked it in 5 days. And this is, which group is? Conspiracy. So they've been working on it and getting this stuff cracked.
That's
Which,
crazy.
Byron, let's have an ethical discussion here. What do you think of cracking DRMs?
Okay, my only reason why I'm for it is because I can't stand the fact that like digital games and now like more specifically older physical games, you can't play when the game is no longer supported. So
Okay.
like an example, terrible game, Spore. Okay, if someone wanted to even
Was that like by the guy who created Sims?
no,
Wasn't it?
no.
Yeah. I'm
Was
gonna
it?
look this up. You keep talking.
Okay, either way. Basically, as bad as a game as that is, let's say you wanted to go now and like make a video about how bad it is, you can't. Like you literally cannot do it because
Will Wright with
Okay.
Maxis Games, also creator of The Sims.
and now the problem is like it's because the game is no longer supported because the DRM is the thing that needed server authentication.
And the server shut down.
And the server shut down.
Okay.
So now
Like in an
you wanna play the
abandonware
game,
scenario.
yeah, you want to play the game, you can't play it anymore. And this is happening more and more with games like, let's say, from roughly 2002 onwards. Because like Half-Life 1, I mean, that's like pre-2000, you can put the disc in, copy it, do whatever you want with it with friends and stuff like that, and like, it'll work. Okay?
Right.
I'm not encouraging like cracking it, but like, at the end of the day, if you wanted to play the game after 20 years, you can do that.
Yeah.
The issue now is that some of these games you cannot even play. Like there's no way around it. You're never gonna play the game again. And I mean even like
But isn't
Halo on Xbox, the original one, you cannot play the game multiplayer because Xbox Live does not exist for the original Xbox.
Okay, well, let me give you a pushback on that. Isn't it up to the game developer to decide what you get to do with their game?
I guess it's
If-
like the Steam thing where Steam actually owns your games and you don't.
Yeah, like if Spore requires that you have to connect to their servers and they shut down their servers, do you get to say, I don't like that rule and I'm just going to go around it, when I'm sure you probably clicked yes on the EULA that says you're submitting to that in order to play this game?
I guess. I think when it comes to like, here's a good example. Let's say there's a company that closed down. So who are the guys that made Darksiders again? Why can't we think of things today? Darksiders quickly.
Yeah, looking it up.
THQ, wasn't it?
Yes, and yeah, THQ.
Okay, so THQ no longer exists.
Really?
Yeah, they closed down a few years ago. So
Okay.
that was a big thing. Like they had to try to sell their IP because people were worried like what's going to happen to it. They had like pretty decent games.
Okay.
Now THQ closes down. Obviously, they're not going to go ahead and support DRM from their games from 5 years before because they don't exist anymore.
Right.
Okay, that's a scenario where it's like one or the other of basically they can be the good guys and say, well, seeing as our company's not going to exist, here's a game, it's free now. Or they can be like, look, we're so broke, we can't even develop this stuff, we're so sorry, there's no way to get it. Okay, but Bethesda on the other hand, who has like IP from 30 years ago from all the companies that they've like absorbed, there's kind of like an expectation that this is the company that is, we're still handing money to them, we still want to be able to play their old games.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's the thing. Like, if that company still exists, I believe, at least to some degree, you should still be able to find a way to play the games. I mean, someone's saying in the comments, Spore's now on GOG. Sure, things like that happen. I may be wrong. Maybe like 5 months later they fix it. But this is the case for a lot of games that you can no longer play it.
But do you get to be the decision maker as far as like, I get to choose to violate this rule because it doesn't allow me to enjoy this one piece of content that I want to enjoy?
No, I mean,
that
World of
for me-
Warcraft, vanilla.
Yes.
Good example.
With
like,
what was that server? What was it called?
wasn't it Molten or something?
No.
Well,
Whatever. Continue.
I mean, World of Warcraft, like say vanilla. Some people were like, I want to live in that world for the rest of my life and die in that world. And
Right.
like, they don't want to play any of the expansions. They don't want anything to happen. They had to go and make their own cracked servers, and that
Right.
is illegal. But I don't know. Like, I guess it's a gray area because multiplayer experiences, especially if they're online only,
Nostalrius. That was the one that was getting into
if it's
some
an if it's
trouble.
an MMO, there's a lot of back end to it. It's not local content. It's not just running on your PC and
Right.
is there DRM or not. I mean, there's actually servers and there's communities and there's money going on behind it and there's actual money being transacted throughout the game.
Right.
I think it's like if it's a single player game and you could play it 10 years ago, you should be able to play it 10 years from now as long as you still own that game.
Okay.
As long as that company still exists, definitely. And when the company closes down, I feel it's like they could be the good guy and just be like, you know what? No DRM.
I mean that would be the best thing. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna create a straw poll
Okay.
asking, what do you guys think? Cracks on abandonware. Yay, nay, syrup. No, not syrup. Third option.
Leroy Jenkins.
No. Okay. No third option.
Just yeah or nay, dude.
No. Yay or nay.
Okay, so quickly explain that. Do you think old games Like, you
Okay,
should
I'm
use
putting
cracks on it if you can't get it anymore.
putting
Like,
the link in Discord and YouTube chat now. So do you guys, yeah. So the question is, do you think if a game has been abandoned by the developer, do you get to have the permission to say, I'm going to bypass whatever security measures were here in order to play this game? Because it's not yours. Like, you
But-
never technically own the rights to do whatever you want with the game, because every single game has an end user license agreement that says you have to submit to this.
but at the same time, I mean, that even in itself has two options, because let's say someone wants to go ahead and play Half-Life 1, okay?
Yeah.
They may have never actually owned the game to begin with, and then they're going to go crack it. That's a different scenario to me, who bought the game like 20 years ago, and like, I know it's still supported, but let's say it wasn't supported anymore.
Yeah.
That's different.
Okay.
Like, I think if I paid like cash monies, for that game, as long as that developer is around, it should at least be supported in some way or another. And if the developer closes, they should maybe, if they can, try to accommodate
But what if they don't? What if they don't? Like, this is the worst case scenario. Like, the developer is never coming back. Nobody who has any ownership of the IP is ever going to talk to you about this.
But then,
Complete abandonware.
is there anything illegal about cracking it then? Because then no one has the rights to it.
No, somebody still technically owns it at the end of the day.
Who?
The bank. The bank.
But
The court
that's true,
system.
because
Like,
even if you liquidate your company, the bank therefore has the assets,
yes.
right?
Like, it's not just nobody's getting hurt technically. Like, there somebody owns this and should rightfully be getting paid for it because they at some point
You're
created
still
this.
stealing somewhere or another.
Well, I mean, that's what we're asking in the straw poll. Like, do you guys actually think this is an issue, like an ethical issue, I guess?
You probably could have asked the question a little bit better. but
Cracks on
that's
abandonware?
fine. Do you think it's ethically correct?
I am pressed for time. Cracks on abandonware gets the sentiment across. We are looking at eight votes yay to 1 vote nay.
That's already pretty like.
Yeah, like that's completely skewed. We don't have the biggest subset of people to pull from, but crack all the things Igloo 2 says. Fair enough. Okay, I don't want to watch that advertisement anymore. There we go. I don't know. I get the idea. I'm not necessarily opposed to it.
You know what? I guess it's like maybe a stupid thing to say, but there's enough laws that exist today in terms of like time. So let's say like copyright, that kind of thing. I think if you create a game that people are paying, and it's not a monthly fee, because like World of Warcraft, once your subscription ends, that doesn't exist anymore. That's a subscription model. If it's a pay once and you're supposed to own it, there should maybe even just be a set amount of time that they have to support it. Because imagine like a game that comes out and 2 years later, they're just like, nope, we scrapped the project and you can't have access to it anymore.
I mean, if it's not financially viable, that's an okay thing for
if
a
it was a
company
single
to do.
player game?
Yes, if the company has to pay money to keep it sustained on the single player side, then
But
yes,
that's going to be such
totally
bad
fine.
press for them.
It doesn't matter.
I mean,
If you're financially in the red, it doesn't matter whether or not it's bad press. You have to keep your company afloat. And like
Yes.
the statement being made in the YouTube chat, if you pay for something once, it should be yours forever. I honestly I'm fairly certain in those end user license agreements, you're actually saying you don't actually own that game. You just own the access to the game because you have the disc or the key.
well, even think of it this way: the people that create things, if you go and create something today and you patent it or license it or copyright it, trademark it, there's so many different things you can do. It's not yours forever either, because I mean those only last for a certain amount of years. You get
Right.
like 10-year patents, you get 100-year patents, and I mean like that's the person who physically created the object eventually doesn't even have access to it either.
Yeah.
So
I'm not in
don't
favor of the statement that if you buy it, it's yours forever. It's
I think, okay, ethically, if there's no other way to get hold of a game, and this works with all media, if there's absolutely no other way for you to be able to get it, I understand why you crack it. I don't say you should. And I mean,
Okay.
like, it goes down even to, like,
goodbye.
videos.
Yeah.
Like, some movies are not accessible within South Africa in any legal way.
Right.
I understand why people are
We've
going
discussed
to
this in depth. Like, yes, it's not like you can't watch specific shows like at all here in South Africa.
I don't think that's an ethical matter. I think that's literally just a legal matter.
it's still an ethical matter.
What are you going to do if you want to watch it? Fly to America to go watch it?
Not watch it because it's not legally available to you. Like, that's always an option when it comes to the consumption of media. You just don't.
I guess it's the same
You
as
don't
like,
have to watch that
That's true,
series.
like-
You don't have to play that Abandonware
just
game.
because you want drugs and they're illegal doesn't mean you have the right to be able to take them. I mean,
I wasn't going to take it that far, but,
No,
like,
but, like-
when it comes to anything that's
Yeah.
entertainment value, like, this isn't shelter, this isn't food, this
Yeah.
isn't a basic rights or needs issue. Like, if you're not paying for a game and you can no longer pay for a game, don't play the game. Like, it's not necessarily like that's an argument, at least. Like, you don't have to play the game.
That's true.
Yeah. All right. So, moving on. Okay, just to finish off on the Denuvo DRM, the reason this is such big news is because this was supposed to be uncrackable.
Yeah.
It took them 5 months to get it down the first time. Now it's 5 days. Like, it's not uncrackable. Like,
Wasn't Just Cause also like a year to get done?
yeah. Like, it definitely stumped the people who crack these games for quite some time, but now they seem to have it down pat to be able to get this working. So, uncrackable doesn't mean uncrackable.
The whole thing of uncrackable kind of can't exist because humans are creating those uncrackable things to begin with.
Right.
It's kind of the problem, I guess.
All right. Moving
Anyway,
on.
moving
Moving on to some esports news. Byron, why don't you fill us in on this? I'm actually going to zoom in because that's too small for my eyes.
Give me a second to open it up.
All right, so Zombie Gamer, Energy Esports, and Carbon Esports merged. This is going on here locally in South
South
Africa.
Africa.
Tell
Okay,
us
so
about this. What's going
Just
on?
a quick, at least let people understand what's going on. So, Energy Esports was a MGO in South Africa that was doing very, very well up till 2015, end of 2015.
Okay.
I'm not saying that they did badly in 2016 or anything. Just what eventually happened is 2016 was the year where DGL Masters happened, which was the biggest esports event within South Africa, and Energy Esports was not part of it. Even though the article here states that the reason behind... you can actually just double check so I can make sure I say the right thing. What does it say about the Masters? Give me a second.
Where's it say? Byron? Doesn't say anything about
It doesn't say
Masters.
anything about... Okay, look, there was a lot of different speculation that it was like it was got to do with contracts. Other people were saying it was got to do with people changing over, politics. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Energy was a really, really good, let's say, MGO that wasn't involved, and now there's an opportunity for them to be involved because Carbon was already part of DGL Masters. So now that
Okay.
Energy's absorbed Carbon, they're now going to be part of Masters, which is pretty cool because a lot of people were upset when they weren't part of Masters because people had been following Energy for quite some time. They had like a massive upset. Bravado had a massive upset a few years ago when Energy beat them in Dota, and there were some Bravado guys that moved across from Energy as well, that kind of thing. But yeah, like there's a lot of absorption, I guess, going on in South Africa in terms of like different players usually.
Okay.
But now it's actually happening where an entire clan, MGO, whatever you want to call it, is being absorbed by another one. And especially Carbon. I mean, Carbon's not small by any means within South Africa. Like they have a following already.
Okay.
So it's pretty interesting to see them be taken by Energy.
Who consumed who?
So as far as I understand, Energy absorbed Carbon, even though Carbon was the one that was inside of DGL Masters.
Okay.
But my speculation behind it is that Energy had I wouldn't say it's money or whatever, but they had investment. They had a lot of
Okay.
investment pre-DGL Masters. They had sponsorship from SteelSeries. I mean, they're official SteelSeries team. They had sponsorship from Internet Solutions, which allowed them to go do overseas trips.
Okay.
So I think it's kind of like Carbon had the officialness, whatever word you want to call it, to offer. Energy had the support. They merged then.
Okay.
It's like, look, you can go read the article if you guys want to. There's some other information, just tells you who the lineup is for Dota and CSGO. I don't think that necessarily is important for what I want to say. It's mainly just that, like, it's not what people necessarily expected to happen, at least from outside. I'm sure guys that are very involved with Energy might have already known about this. I didn't myself. But yeah, it's also... One thing I thought about, though, is that now that Bravado has pulled out of Masters, I wonder if that announcement had been made let's say 2 or 3 months ago. I wonder if Energy would have still merged with Carbon. I mean, I wonder if they would have not tried to take that 8th slot. So I don't really know the whole politics behind that. I don't know who's supposed to fill that slot. That's pretty much it.
All right. Next topic then. You also want to cover this one. Microsoft explains how Windows 10 game mode works. I want to get rid of those ads on the side. That did not. There we go. Okay. What's this about, Byron?
Just give me a second for it to open up over here. Okay, you guys can read the article as well. Something pretty straightforward. But basically, since Windows 10, Microsoft tried to add some like Xbox features native to the operating system.
Okay.
So like there was the Windows G where you could natively record and you could
Right, that
interact with
stupid
people.
pop-up that comes up every time you launch a game.
It's kind of useful if you're using it. Like
Right, it's just annoying if you're not.
yeah, it's
Which-
annoying if you're
yeah.
not because if you're using XSplit or OBS or whatever to record or a capture card, but it's pretty good. Like I've actually used it. There's nothing bad about it.
Okay.
I mean, it's native. That's what's quite cool. And what's happening now is Microsoft's basically making it that CPUs and GPUs get more performance within games because obviously now like when
By like removing some of the interference
so-
caused by
so-
the operating system?
okay, so in terms of an operating system, in terms of Windows versus an Xbox, let's take Xbox.
Yeah.
There's only like two things happening sideline to playing a game.
Right.
It's like, are you online? Are your friends online? Or would you like to chat to your friends?
Stupid video.
You know what I mean?
Stopped again.
And basically, what's going to happen now is more CPU and GPU are going to be allocated to the game that's being happening. So,
Okay.
in my opinion, it's probably more like when you go to Task Manager and you set the affinity for a process to be like real time.
Yes.
That's kind of going to be native to games.
Okay.
It'll actually be able to detect. I don't know if people are going to have to actually, what do you call it? If people are going to have to actually optimize it within their game itself. They haven't really said too much about
Okay.
that. But realistically, it's like a 5% improvement on games. It's not going to be something like DirectX 12 was meant to be when people were like, wow, 700% and asymmetric, blah, blah, blah. You
Right.
know? This is just like some slight improvement,
Okay.
case by case scenario.
Gotcha. I don't know.
I'm glad to see optimizations.
I guess.
It's always a good thing.
Windows 10.
I have no problems with Windows 10.
No, it's fine. It's just what is it doing in the background? Why does
Why
telemetry
do
data
you-
services usually use anywhere from 10 to 20% on some of my computers?
I have had this issue with every Windows since like 7, where always SVC host or something like that
Yeah.
has like 80% utilization for no reason, or like system idle.
Yeah.
That is the one that annoys me. System idle's using 80%, Dota's using 20, and it's like, but then Dota was lagging for some random reason. What's going on here? Like,
Right.
what? It shouldn't be. I mean, my PC can handle the game, but look, Windows is always going to have issues, but I have more issues with the alternative to it. I mean, I don't want to use Mac. I don't want to use Linux. The only option I have is Windows, and every iteration of Windows has brought something to the table that I've actually cared about. I mean, sure, they're spying on me, but like my PC's faster. I don't care.
Wait, no,
I don't
we-
use
we-
my PC
we've had,
for anything
We've had
else.
this discussion before.
Yeah,
This is another ethical topic.
it is one of ethics for sure.
Yeah. Well, somebody said earlier when we were going on the abandonware issue, you're gonna lose subs continuing this topic. Like, I want to address that. Like, I'm totally fine if you unsubscribe because you disagree with me on my particular views on certain matters. Like, I have my own opinion, and if you don't like that, like, I'm okay to discuss it with you. Like, Byron and I completely disagree on practically everything. Like, this whole Windows 10 spying thing, like, polar opposites. But like, if you don't want to be here, don't be here. I'm not trying to keep anybody around. Like, I like subscriber growth, but at the same time, I'm not going to grovel to people to get it. So, yeah, Windows 10 spying is bad. I don't care if my computer is faster. It's a necessity for me in the tech industry because like you can't benchmark any of the latest games if you're not running DX12, which you need Windows 10 for. It's a whole mess. So I'm on Windows 10 by necessity. I don't appreciate it. I shut off everything that I can. I do what I can to make sure.
I'm not forced to use 10.
And you still do it.
I still do it.
Yes.
Because I don't use my PC
we've had
for
this
that.
discussion before where you're just like, well, I don't care if people know what I'm doing. Like,
Dude, no care in the world.
okay, let's move on to something a bit more lighthearted. Square
You
Enix.
can talk about this.
This is amazing news when it came out. Square Enix is going to be participating with Marvel to develop actually good games. Like, okay, the tie-in movies, the tie-in game movies, the tie-in games from the movies haven't been like the worst games, but like you can just tell like they're slapped on to sell more t-shirts. Like they're not thought of as a primary thing. So I'm very hyped that Square Enix is going to be working on this, as well as Crystal Dynamic Studios and Eidos Montreal, who brought us Tomb Raider as well as Deus Ex. Like, this seems to be legit, that they're actually going to be trying here, which is going to be good. So we
I
have
mean, that's something like for years has always been like, whatever movies that release, please don't bring out a game because it's gonna suck no matter.
and I'm not
what.
going to play it. Like, I
Yeah.
have no reason to play this.
I mean, there's
I
been
would
some
want
that are
to.
okay, though.
I would want to, but I'm not going to. Like, I do remember like the Spider-Man 2 on PlayStation 2.
But was that based off of the?
I was a kid.
It wasn't
Like,
based
I'm
off
not
the movie.
I'm not necessarily. Yes. Well, it came out at the same time as the second movie. It was
Sure.
technically a movie tie-in, but it wasn't a direct game.
Okay. But that was a good game.
I thought so, but it could also be that I was
Look,
a stupid
I mean,
child.
I just googled it now quickly. So like video games based off of movies. I mean, there was Chronicles of Riddick, which was amazing. Okay, like really, really good. But then at the same time, it's because of like the team behind it cared about making a game. They didn't just go like, oh, let's just rip this off. Like the first Transformers, Transformers when it kind of the modern era Transformers. You know what I mean?
Okay.
The game for that was absolute garbage. Let me see what else is here. So some of the Matrix games, some were terrible. There was one, I can't remember which one it was, but you could basically you could fight with people, like it was third person and
Was it the MMO?
No.
Okay.
There was an MMO for the Matrix.
Yeah.
Wow. It wasn't Into the Matrix. It was the one that came after that. Was pretty good. There were a lot of like combos and that kind of thing. Bad Boys, I mean, I didn't even know there was a game for it. That's terrible. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, X-Men Origins.
Okay, let's ask the community. What is your favorite movie tie-in video game? Do you guys have any favorites out there?
These are terrible. Like this Alvin and the Chipmunks, the movies are bad enough. I don't want to know how bad the game is. Lord of the Rings, there were elements that were amazing.
Good. They were pretty good.
But at the same time, so there were elements that were amazing about the games, but my concern with them is they differed so much. Because like the Hobbit game versus...
Well, no. The Fellowship of the Ring was like a stealth action game.
Whereas it was adventure-y though for me. Like,
I really liked that game. But then Two Towers and Return of the King were like hack and slash.
Hardcore, yeah. But then like the Hobbit game was closer to the Fellowship of the Ring.
Okay.
And now like Shadow of Mordor is closer to the Two Towers. So they kind of just like went complete opposite directions with those.
Okay, so we're waiting on your guys' response.
We're asking which games based off of movies, not movies based off of games.
Yeah, so Hitman was a movie that's based off of the game. The game came first with Hitman. We're talking about a movie that is coming out that they released a game for.
Sorry, speaking of the other way around, did you ever watch the Far Cry movie?
No.
Wow.
Was it bad?
Wow. Actually, please find the IMDb for that.
Okay.
Like, that movie was one of the worst movies I've ever watched in my entire life.
Okay, it has a 3.1 out of 10 rating.
Yeah, they had this like no-name like German or Russian or something actor.
Till Schweiger. Okay, let me pull this up on the stream.
Wow, that was probably one of the worst movies I've watched of my entire life, and like my expectation of it was way bigger because Far Cry was one of the like most interesting game. What do you call it? Not genres. What do you call it? Like series of games that have ever come out, in my opinion, and they've been different too. Like the first Far Cry had a completely different feel to 2, had a completely different feel to 3 maybe closer to 4, that kind of thing. But they were generally good. Like even Far Cry Primal wasn't necessarily a major success, but it was an okay game.
Okay,
movie,
I haven't heard of any of these people.
None of them. Like so the first Far Cry game was those like bioengineered weird like super soldiers, right?
Okay.
This was just like I don't speak English and I talk like this the whole time, and there's a love interest and he needs to try to save her from these super soldiers, and like they're literally just these ridiculously buff guys on roids with like white painted skin, but like they're like weird white, like not like white skin like us or whatever, in a sense, like painted white, bald head, freaky like numbskull, like it was just
okay.
Such a bad movie.
Some people are bringing up some fair topics. Xander said Harry Potter games were pretty cool.
Yes.
Okay.
The first one.
To be fair, I can't remember if they were actually good or if I just enjoyed the books so much and I was a dumb child and I just enjoyed the games no matter how bad they were.
But then the same can be said for the other two in the comments. So someone else is saying Lion King for SNES and Aladdin as well.
Yeah.
They were amazing when we were kids, but like I tried to play Lion King the other day. That game is so hard.
Yeah.
Like incredibly hard. I couldn't even get past like I think it's a second level where there's all the monkeys that throw you and there's a giraffes that lift you up and that kind of thing.
Yeah, they didn't cuddle you back then.
Wow.
No tutorial either.
Not at all.
Yeah. Was there a Pac-Man movie? Well, there was that movie with Adam Sandler that came out that had Pac-Man in it.
I never watched it though.
What's it
It
called?
was that like End of the World
Pixels.
or whatever. Yeah, Pixels. I never
haven't
watched
seen
it.
Yeah. Okay. Pac-Man was the movie. Dr.
Star Wars.
Jekyll.
So
Is there a Rogue One game, or is Rogue
is.
One a tie-in
no,
to
but
Battlefront?
but still saying Star Wars games.
Okay.
So Star Wars games, there's been good games and there's been bad games, and that's been something where there've been complete opposites. I mean,
Okay.
I used to play Star Wars games on DOS days where we literally had a I don't remember what the game is called. I might have to Google it. And we had an old school joystick that the joystick literally said up, down, left, right, like an old Atari.
Okay.
And it had 2 buttons. And it was pretty cool because the first mission you were like in a TIE fighter or an X-Wing, I can't remember. It would have been a TIE fighter. And like you're going through these like canyons and stuff. Eventually you fight like a starship. And then you like on... It was crazy, like intricate for its time. But then like there were some other games that came out after that where were just really, really bad. And like... The Star Wars games, it's also one of those things where, sure, the lore continued more than like Far Cry would have.
Yeah,
but
like Knights of the Old Republic is supposed to be really good.
Yeah, it was. And 2. But the lore was always there. But the problem is like those games were so like infinitely different that some of them were just not worth even touching with a stick.
Okay.
Like for me, Battlefront, I didn't like it. I didn't like the game at all.
Battlefront seems like the precursor to what Battlefield 1 is. Like, it has the same texturing, it has the same idea, like, just less realism. Like, it's...
It seemed more like we bought the IP, we wanted to make some money off it, we didn't really care about where it would go.
It looks nice.
It does.
But, like, the thing that really bothered me about Battlefront was there's no local co-op. Which is just like...
You wanted to play it to kids.
It's a Star Wars game. Why can't I just, like, sit down on the couch and play with a couple other people?
The Lego Star Wars games were really, really fun to play co-op with friends.
Okay.
I'm trying to just check now. So, like, Clone Wars, there were a lot. There were a lot of Star Wars games throughout the time. And some were really, really bad.
Okay. Cool. All right, moving on. Do we want to move on? We're moving on.
Yeah, sure, we can move on.
All right, another game topic. Final Fantasy XII Zodiac Age, which is basically just a remaster of Final Fantasy XII, will be releasing on July 11th in the West, as well as July 13th in Japan. I am excited for this. I liked Final Fantasy XII. This is all on the heels of Final Fantasy having their 30th anniversary celebration happening today, and they came out with a few announcements. There's going to be more Final Fantasy 15 DLC coming out on the 21st of February, as well as the 28th of March, and something in June, and then they're also still working hard on the Final Fantasy 7 remake, as you can see there by that promotional image, which, okay, episodic. They're going to make Final Fantasy 7 remake episodic. What?
But it's not going to play at all like the original one. That's the thing.
Right. Which, okay, let's maybe discuss that for just half a second.
Episodic games have done generally well, especially Telltale.
Yeah. So Telltale and Hitman are supposed to be really good. My question is not on the episodic nature, but rather when something's remade, like where did they go? Do you actually remake it to try to just make it like the original but make it better? Or do you actually change it up?
There's like reimagined or remastered.
Right. So
Final Fantasy VII is a reimagined game.
Yes. Would you prefer reimagined or remastered?
It depends. Because here's the thing, like there were some games so when it comes to a game that had amazing gameplay, amazing story, but outdated graphics, a remaster is warranted.
Like Final Fantasy X.
No, I hated that. The remaster. So Crash Bandicoot. Okay. The game was already good to begin with. It was simple. It had good gameplay. There wasn't like the story just made sense. It wasn't really a story.
Yeah.
All they needed to do was remaster it for modern day.
Yeah.
There's some games that like might have looked okay. The directors were like, there's so many other things we could have done. We didn't have the technology back then, but not only for graphics wise, for plot.
Yeah.
And then it's like, it makes sense to reimagine it. Because reimagine, they're still going to have the lore, they're still going to have most of the aspects of the original, but now they have opportunity to do more things with it. So, yeah, so here's the thing for me. Fallout and people will definitely argue with me on this one.
Okay.
Fallout 1 and Fallout 2 were definitely success. Like Fallout 2 was a successor to Fallout 1. Fallout 3 was supposed to be a remaster more than a reimagine of Fallout 1.
Okay.
Understand what I mean by that in terms of it was supposed to be better graphics. Sure, the story would continue. It wasn't supposed to be the story of 1.
Right.
But it was just supposed to be better graphics than Fallout 1. And my problem
And
with
have
it,
that same like
isometric view.
Okay.
They reimagined the game completely. And it is a success. Fallout 3 did well enough for Fallout 4 to come out, and they're good games. My problem with it, though, is that I absolutely loved Fallout 1 and 2. And the isometric view made so much sense in the game. Turn-based is something that... So that's even, another example. Turn-based games, it's because of the technology they had back in the day where AI could only process so fast.
Right.
Final Fantasy 15, real-time makes sense today, didn't make sense those days. They could reimagine the combat.
Yeah.
My problem with Fallout is that they just said, let's keep the lore, but make nothing else the same in the game. And that ruined the experience for me.
Okay.
So I think it really depends on the game. If today you want to make a game and you're limited by hardware, not just because of graphics, you can reimagine it later.
Yeah.
But if the only limiting factor is the actual graphics behind the game, just remaster it.
Was a Skyrim remaster necessary?
Not at all. It doesn't even look better than the mods.
Like it's how old? Like
But
10
how
years?
how would you reimagine it? Because a reimagining of
It's
Skyrim would
it's
be
just
a new
Elder
Elder
Scrolls.
Scrolls.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at.
Okay, I understand that point.
A reimagining of Morrowind, on the other hand, would make more sense.
Right.
Because it would be within the same world of Morrowind, which is still Elder Scrolls, but within that timeline in modern graphics.
Okay. But so then is Final Fantasy VII a reimagining? Because it's still going to be the same storyline, but different
it isn't,
gameplay,
as
so
far
it's a
as I understand.
remaster.
As far as I understand, the story's actually even changed as well.
Okay.
I may be wrong, but what I understood about it is it's the same character progression in terms of personal story between the characters, but the actual game is going to be different. As in, where the story goes.
So Aerith is still going to die with a sword to the chest. I hit my hat.
I don't know. I mean, the thing is, with it being episodic, we don't even know. Maybe it's going to go beyond the original story. I mean, they might develop it.
That would be nice.
It would be cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that Final Fantasy VII has already done that with like Dirge of Cerberus and
there was also a movie. It wasn't Advent Children, was it?
No, it was Advent Children. Yeah, you're right.
But that's what I'm getting at. I think there's more place for reimaginings than there is for remasters, because the problem today is that
so the reason I even asked that question is because they're remaking Scarface.
Really?
Like a classic movie, does it need to be remade? Are you actually going to make this better?
So if you look,
it's the same argument with sequels then.
What was that that movie I still told you Neil didn't like? 2001: Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
2001: A Space Odyssey, the 4K, and it's not a remaster, or I guess it's a remaster or whatever. But what I mean by that is they took the original actual reels of it and they just cleaned it up and everything like that and took it through post processing.
Yeah.
That movie still today looks like it was made in the past 5 years when it's 50 years old. That's something that makes sense. But when they're just going to redo a movie with new actors, it's stupid. To me, that's dumb. And there's a lot of games that I can't stand that they weren't amazing games to begin with, and now they're just, let's slap on new graphics engine and resell it. I mean, Darksiders is a good example of the original Darksiders looked okay when it came out. Darksiders 2 looked okay when it came out. They just went and gave it new graphics to make money again. And I don't think that makes sense. I appreciate the newer graphics, but I don't think it was necessary. And the same thing can be said with Skyrim. For sure. Enough. I mean, the Skyrim remaster doesn't even look better than the mods, which tells you what was the point.
Right. I had a thought, but it disappeared.
What do people say in the comments? I'm sure someone might have mentioned it at least.
I haven't really seen a lot just discussing specific games reimagined or remastered.
In your opinion, what game would make sense for a remaster?
For a remaster?
Spyro?
Yes, absolutely. Oh,
because there's no way to play it right now. And that even goes into the, so there's no DRM, blah, 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 that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sure, game was good in its day, go and remaster it.
Right, absolutely.
Do they need to reimagine it? Not at all.
No, I don't think so. The gameplay was challenging enough. I don't think there was really a whole lot that... Like they can make a completely open world instead of having you to travel through like little portals.
Now, the original Lion King game, they can reimagine it because they were limited. They were massively limited by its actual platform that it was just a side scroller and like there was nothing else to it. And Lion King, like it has a resurgence over the past few years because of the 3D version. There's a new movie coming out. They could reimagine it.
Yeah. Half-Life 2 could probably be remastered.
No.
Why?
What for? I mean, Source Engine already looks really good.
Not really.
With mods. Trust me.
Okay.
That's what I'm getting at. If you can already do it with mods,
but you can do everything with mods. Like, that's the thing. Like, anything that's on PC, somebody can develop a mod for. It's just a matter of whether or not the community went forward and did it.
But there was okay, so that's the thing. Skyrim and Half-Life already had a massive modding community. Did Spyro? No.
Right.
That's what
it's because it was PlayStation. Like, but modding on the original PlayStation. That's what I mean.
Half-Life 1 had a modding community behind it. I don't know.
Fair enough.
I think it's definitely case by case. I just feel reimagined games always feel better that they're actually doing something. They're putting effort behind it.
Fair enough. All right. Last topic that we have on the roll for B-roll. The Switch pricing in South Africa is freaking expensive.
Crazily.
Like, okay, to put it in perspective of like a direct conversion from the US, it's only $100 more than what you can buy it for in the States, which isn't terrible, but at the same time, for what you're getting for the Switch, no games.
None at all.
No games whatsoever.
Add $100 for Legend of Zelda.
Okay,
60.
Like, you actually have to get that. The freaking Pro controller is 1,200 Rand. The spare controllers are 800 Rand a piece, or 1,300 Rand if you want to buy them together. And the actual console is 5,300 Rand right now on Takealot, which is the pre-order price.
So basically, if you want to play Legend of Zelda with a Pro controller on launch, how much are you going to pay?
So the Pro controller one, and then just getting the regular 7,379 Rand, which over the current exchange rate, that's $550.
That's insane.
You can get a PlayStation 4 Slim with
you can get a Pro for that price.
Well, no, with four games. You can get a PS4 Slim with 4 games and an extra controller for that.
And you can get a Pro with 2 games for that already.
Which
and you know, the thing that concerns me the most isn't even necessarily its inflated price. It's that the inflated price is not the final price.
Right.
It's still going to be an extra 300 Rand difference if you don't pre-order. So what you hadn't calculated just now, what was that?
I don't even remember.
Add an extra. I mean, I know 300 is not a ton of money in terms of like console price, but like seriously, like you already like milking us dry, and now we need to add another $20.
I just feel like the Switch we've discussed it for the past 2-3 weeks now. Like it's just a weird console mobile gaming thing.
You know what weirds me out the most?
It's a tablet that you can't even do tablet things with. You could just play Nintendo IP
no Netflix, there's no browser yet that we know of. Like what keeps being like concerning for me is that like there were games that were hyped up. And like I understand that because like the person who hyped the game was generally the publisher for the game and like a reviewer that was just trying to get some money. But like when a bunch of publishers start speaking about a console, you know there's got to be some like authority behind that. Yeah. Like you can't have Epic Games telling you that this console is good enough and then it isn't, because Epic Games has a reputation to withhold in terms of having a graphics engine that's generally always on top. And all of these publishers at the moment are busy going on about how good the Switch is. Like even I think it was Phil Spencer from Microsoft, Xbox was saying like, you know, nods to like the Switch, it's so cool.
Okay.
And I'm just like, what is going on here? Because this is something that on paper sounds pathetic. I mean, yeah. There's so many words and not one of them is positive.
It just doesn't, I don't even know where it's going. Like what this is about.
But what concerns me is that everyone that has touched this thing is raving about it.
Yeah.
Like every single reviewer that has touched the Switch has said it's amazing. Why? Like, is it just because Nintendo has done such a good job with like first party games that no matter what the system is like, it's fun enough? I mean, does fun warrant an excessive price tag? Because there's fun games for PlayStation, there's fun games for Xbox, there's fun games for PC. I mean, you can take the PC you have right now, and how many games can you buy for $550?
Quite a few.
Every single game that mattered in the past 3 years.
Yeah.
Like, easily. So I don't really know, like, I guess time will tell. I mean, once I have a Switch in my hands and I can actually play the new Mario Kart or the new Legend of Zelda, which I have played. Like, I played Legend of Zelda on Wii U at E3, and the game was great, but I wasn't like, I'm going to buy a new console because of this. Like, at this stage, it sounds sad to say, I'm more considering just buying the Legend of Zelda for my horrendous Wii U to get the story and gameplay.
Right.
Not the graphics, unfortunately, but like, not fork out 5,500 rand to play it on 900p instead of 720p. Like, I don't know what these guys are smoking. Nothing makes sense at this stage. And I guess we need it to release before we can actually understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, it's a month from now. It's a
Right.
month and 3 days, sorry. It's not far from now, and we'll probably see a lot more revealed within the next 2 weeks, like official spec behind it. More, because it's like the thing that people always say. New game comes out, IGN 10 out of 10. It's like a joke. Because IGN's paid to review it anyway.
Right.
They're going to always give a game 7, 8, 9, 10 out of 10, unless it's that, like, Life of Black Tiger.
Okay.
You know about that game?
No.
Wow, Google it.
Okay.
And that's the thing, like, IGN's always going to have a really good review for a game, whereas, like, once all the other couldn't call it third party, but let's say the lesser reviewing companies that don't care, like, they're going to review a game for what it's worth. They're going to review this console, and then we'll know once there's, like, information is out, is it worth buying? So this game, Life of Black Tiger,
yeah.
it's got 6.6 out of 10.
Yeah.
Which is literally the entire internet trolling every review possible.
Okay.
The game is so bad. Like, so Jimquisition, he gave it a 10 as a joke.
Okay.
And you know,
Yeah.
that game isn't worth 1 out of 10. Not even
Why?
worth 1 out of 10. Because it's a $10 game. $10 game for PlayStation 4. There's no story to it.
Okay.
Your character can only move in an axis of 8, so the animations are like that.
Okay.
And you press circle or square, whichever one, to attack like wolves. And the graphics in Unity look worse than Half-Life 1.
Okay.
It's terrible. But that's the thing. That's like a troll. Is the Switch a troll? Like, is Epic Games and Ubisoft and like Bandai Namco and like all these companies, are they trolling us? Are they like, the Switch is gonna be amazing?
No,
I
don't think that's necessarily the case. I feel like we've discussed this, like we've beat this dead horse for sure. Like, Nintendo seems lost as to what they want to do. They have this valuable
but
IP.
they don't, because everyone is saying it's good. It seems lost to us.
The device may be good, but what they're selling it as is lost in translation somewhere.
What is it?
I don't know what they want me to think it is.
Is it a home console? Is it a portable console? Is it something you're supposed to use with a Pro Controller?
Like, I'm sure when I get it, I'll just be like, yeah, this is fun. Why would I buy it? Like, just because you enjoy something doesn't mean you're going to spend the money on it. Just because I see something that's a really cool demo, like an HTC Vive, doesn't mean I'm going to spend the money to bring it home.
But you know, it's even like something that confused me. So with the Switch, when I thought of the announcement, the positive side of me was like, cool, whatever game that comes out now, if it has the story and it has the gameplay, you can play it on the go. Who cares about the graphics? You'll at least be able to play it on the Switch, because all the like companies that matter are going to develop games for it. But then it was like looking at the specs and like extra features. It's like, it has an infrared sensor for playing rock, paper, scissors. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, the same console that you're trying to say will run PlayStation Pro games, not on the same graphics, but those games that are available there will be available here.
Yeah.
Right?
You could play rock, paper, scissors with infrared.
But then,
You're
right?
special.
So Luke from Linus Tech Tips,
Yeah.
which is someone that I respect his like opinion
Right.
very much, is going on about how good what was that, 1, 2, 3, whatever game?
Okay, yeah.
He's saying that game
1, 2 Switch?
is amazing.
Really?
He's saying that game is amazing
But-
and should be like bundled without a doubt.
But you know what? Everybody loved Wii Sports. Everybody loved Wii Sports.
Because the expectation of the console was that. No one bought a Wii to play Call of Duty 360 no scope online. If you did, Shame. Like I literally I went to a guy's house once a few years ago. He had a Wii and he had like there was this weird Wii controller gun thing and he had Call of Duty and you had to literally like tilt the gun. I'm just like, dude, it's worse than playing with like one of those ball mouse, but like with the actual ball on top of the mouse, the IntelliSplorer or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that would have been amazing compared. And like it confuses me because I don't know what this console's supposed to be. Is it a fun-loving play rock paper scissors with your friends online, or is it play Horizon Zero Dawn at lower graphics on the go?
Yeah, it's just I'm confused, but we can
super weird.
We can be off that topic, especially since we've been going on for nearly an hour and a half now. I guess we can take some Q&A before we end this. Thanks everybody for joining us so far. This has actually been our best stream ever. We had a pretty decent amount of people tuning in. So
awesome.
Thanks everybody for coming in. Any questions that you guys have, whether it's tech related, personal related, I won't necessarily answer all of your personal questions, but you're free to ask them, I suppose. What opinions do you want me to disagree with you on? Feel free to put them in the comments.
Just quickly, explain to the guys, so some people, when the video cut out, they were under the impression that our webcam cut out. So quickly just explain what the actual process is in terms of how we...
Yeah, so right now, actually, I wonder if I can turn on my webcam. So what is going... let me not change the scene first, Brett. What are you doing? Okay, so we actually have an audio setup and a camera setup running to a capture card, which if I can pull this up... Okay, no, that's not what I wanted. That's the capture card. Here we go. Here is the webcam on my laptop. So this is Byron right here. Then right next to us, we have this little, wrong way, audio recorder going right there.
Zoom H1.
The Zoom H1. But then on the other side of everything, I don't even know if I
just
could
pull it a little bit.
Yeah. So we have the Razer Ripsaw capture card, which is then running an HDMI cable all the way to my Panasonic GH4 that's over there. So sometimes there's just interference with everything that's going on there. The GH4 just doesn't like to communicate with the capture card. The capture card doesn't like to communicate with my PC. Things break, and when one thing breaks, you have to reset everything, and it's just... It happens.
But we at least know how to solve it this time.
Yeah.
So like we had the issue 2 episodes ago where the audio was weird.
What the heck was that about?
The video was weird and whatever. So now, sure, we might have 1 or 2 mix-ups, mistakes, whatever, but we can solve them pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's true. All right,
okay.
GTX 1080 or RX 490. I would probably buy the 1080 because it's going to be more power efficient.
Because the 480 is already like a 1080 in terms of power.
Yeah. Well, if you get 2 480s, it's not as good as a 1080, and it's drawing just as much power.
Yeah, makes sense. Depends on the price too. I mean, if the 490 came out at like $350, people would definitely buy it.
That's definitely true. Okay, there's a few comments or questions in
Is this video going to be uploaded to YouTube?
I already answered that. Yeah. Okay. How far do you think I could overclock my i7 7700K with a Hyper 212 Evo? If you have fans on both sides, probably 5 gigahertz. If you only have one fan, I would definitely say you could get 4.8 easily. 4.8, 4.9.
He can hit 5, but you wouldn't recommend it for
you couldn't run it, okay? Somebody's saying 4.4, 4.5 on a 7700K, that's stock.
Stock, yeah.
That's stock speed. That's not necessarily what you need. Safe temps for the 7700K, it's dependent on what you're comfortable with.
Sorry, someone was saying that they will have to reimagine and remaster the first ET game. So do you know about that?
Where it's all in a landfill.
Yeah, the first ET game that ever came out was so bad, apparently.
It was broken. It was literally broken.
They literally were so embarrassed about it, they went and took every single copy that exists and put it in a landfill, and like no one's allowed to know where it is. They don't ever want any of that footage getting out there because it's just that bad.
Like you played as ET and you walked to the right, and then the game glitched and you fell into a pit that you couldn't get out of. On every single copy.
So bad.
Is YouTube my full-time job? No, it is not. It does not pay anywhere near enough to consider it a full-time job. I think... Okay, so what I'm trying to gather in the Discord server, I think they're using text or talk to TTS. So they're getting their text off of vocals, but I think they're using our stream to convert it to words. And so everything just doesn't make any sense.
Please don't buy the Switch. Someone might get a Switch on Christmas.
Yeah, so right now we're basically just going through the catalog of chat to see
Sorry.
if there's anything that you guys wanted us
Not-
to discuss that we
Not
missed.
to try to go on for too long, but I guess one of the obvious factors in terms of like all the release information about the Switch at the moment in terms of YouTube people is because they're trying to ride on that hype, where they're going to say something positive about it no matter what because they're trying to get views.
Yeah.
So that there's definitely a big portion of that happening right now.
What screen pixel technology do you think is the future? Quantum dot, OLED. That's the way it's going next, at least for like actual displays. But it also seems like it's not. It's not just going on the end of like making the display more beautiful. It's going on the other side of like we're just gonna push everything as fast as we can, even if you can't see it. So like Asus is releasing a 250 hertz monitor. For who?
What is that?
Who can see that?
What is that 8K monitor that's coming out? Is it OLED as well?
Yeah, from Dell, they're releasing an 8K monitor, but that's like OLED. Like that's.
I read an article the other day about resolutions, where so people are gonna call out humans apparently cannot see past 30 hertz. Okay, hold on.
Okay.
They can't see past 30 hertz, but their brains can interpret the difference beyond 30 hertz.
Right. So like I can't if a monitor is running at 30 hertz, I won't see the screen flickering.
Yes.
If it's running at 60 hertz, I'm still not going to see the screen flickering.
Yes.
If it runs at like 24 hertz, I can see the screen.
Yes. But your brain can interpret beyond 30 hertz.
Okay.
Up to so depending on the person, some people can interpret only up to 85 hertz,
Okay.
which is way lower than 120 hertz monitor, and some people can go up to about 150.
Right.
So that was an article. You never know, like it's the internet, okay? But that's the thing, that they say that eyes don't work the same way as a monitor or a camera, that it's not just about frame rate or hertz, it's also about peripheral vision, that kind of thing, where your peripheral vision doesn't have the same frequency as your focus.
Right.
So when you're looking at something in focus, let's say it's 200 frames per second, it's easier for you to interpret the difference, not necessarily even see it, versus something in your peripheral vision.
Okay. Okay, there's another question. Can you explain such a little performance difference between RX 470 and RX 480, but price difference is huge?
Is that huge?
It's much larger than the price difference. So there's no practical reason to buy a 470 if you can save up for the 480. You spend $20 more, you get quite a bit more performance.
Isn't it 10% performance?
No, it's bigger than that. Significantly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never used a 470.
They actually just might be bin 480s that just can't perform at the same level. And so they just make money off of it.
Are they pretty hard?
They're not that bad, actually. No.
AMD. So.
Oh, do we have pictures? I think I might have a picture to pull up.
Really?
Okay, yeah. Okay. You want to tell this story
Well,
while
so
you tell the story, Byron.
So this morning, I get a WhatsApp from a friend freaking out. And I'm like, calm down, bro. What's going on? And he's like, my PC just caught fire. Like, not like, I'm even just trying to picture this, sorry. Like, literally caught fire. So he's in his lounge. No, sorry, not in his lounge. He's in his kitchen, making himself some coffee. And lights dim for like a second. And he hears a pop from his bedroom. He can't really understand what's going on. Runs to his bedroom. And his PC is in flames. Like, there's a flame coming out of the top of his PC. And he's like, I don't understand. Like, in shock. He's thinking to himself, like, what? Because obviously, like, PCs aren't supposed to make fire, right? Like, that's not normal. Like, if a capacitor blows or whatever, it's just my PC dies. And that's it. I mean, I've had a power supply blow before, just big spark, and then that was it.
Yeah.
So he's standing there. He's telling me the story, obviously, like when he's at my house later. And he's standing, staring at the PC, still in flames for a few seconds, doesn't know what to do, keeps staring at it. After about 30 seconds, the flames died down, just unplugs it, and just like stands like bleep. Like
What just happened?
What just happened? Like I can't understand what's going on, right? So eventually he brings the PC to my house. So the picture that you guys see right now.
I can't see it right now.
Oh, can't they see it yet?
No, I'm working on that. I wanted to edit the preview
Okay,
before I
cool.
pulled it up.
So Brett's quickly working on that. So he brings the PC to my house, and
There, now they can see it.
that is the top of a Corsair 550D. Melted. Like literally melted. Okay? That is the inside of his PC. So what actually happened?
I need to get in close to that.
What actually happened is a capacitor blew and made flames that it ended up melting almost everything inside of his PC. And the
Jeez.
damage goes further down. So
My
his
goodness.
RX 480 dead.
Well, okay, to be clear,
So this is an Intel based motherboard and processor.
Yeah,
okay?
to be clear, this is not the RX 480's fault. Like a capacitor blew on the motherboard.
Yeah. Z77 board dead. 3770K dead. 8 gigs of DDR3 dead. Like that case is crazy, like the amount of warping and like melting that happened inside of it. And what was even more crazy for me is I wanted to unplug the Neptune. There's a Cooler Master Neptune cooler inside of there to try to actually see what happened. Everything just crumbled in my hands as I was pulling it out. And
Sorry.
the thing that scared me most about this is his PC was off. His PC was off during all of this, and it happened with a short in his like mains that sparked, went into his. Oh, I think the
Stupid capture
stream
card.
died again.
Okay.
It killed his PC
Stupid
while
capture
his
card.
PC was off but just plugged in. Now, I've never been one that like unplugs stuff in like a worry with thunderstorms and stuff, unless I'm like a really, really bad thunderstorm that struck my house. But imagine you'd gone on holiday. Imagine you go on holiday and your PC is off but it's still plugged into the wall and it burns your house down.
That's insane.
Like, I've never seen something like this happen before.
This is insane.
And the saddest part, like,
Who manufactures this motherboard?
it was an ASRock.
Okay.
And like the thing that's sad is that sure, like his processor and his motherboard and everything is like slightly outdated.
Yeah.
3770K is still good. Like
It's good enough.
It's good enough. It's money wasted throwing that thing away. And an RX 480 Sapphire Nitro 8 gig OC is dead. That is sad.
And,
So
yeah.
he has insurance. He has insurance at least, but like he's trying to like figure out what to do next, because it's not always just like a simple case when it comes to like shorts and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I have never seen something like this. So I don't know what, like, have any of you guys, like, say in the comments, have you ever seen a PC actually go up in actual flames and melt components within 30 seconds? I mean, what kind of temperatures would it have to have, like, gotten to be able to melt the board within 30 seconds? Okay, to be fair, we don't know if it had maybe ignited before he heard the pop.
Okay.
But it's still crazy. Yay for RMA. You cannot RMA that. You can't RMA a board that's melted. It's physical damage.
That's true. Did that work?
What's that TTS? Is it something you're doing?
No, I'm not doing anything.
Okay.
I have to learn my mod powers here. Did that work?
But yeah,
That
so
didn't work.
the joke Brett was saying is like, that's what you deserve for using AMD. Even though, like, in this scenario, it's most likely his
My
power
stupid
supply
mod
or
thing
his,
isn't working.
dirty
Okay.
power, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, he was using some pretty no-name power supply, to be honest. Like, I
Okay.
had never heard of it before.
Okay.
750 watt as well, and I think he paid like $30 or something for it.
Okay.
So you shouldn't be paying that price. But yeah, so from now on, like, if I'm going on holiday, I'm unplugging my PC. Like, legitimate. I never ever unplugged a PC in my life before because of like going on holiday, maybe because of a bad thunderstorm, but this is crazy.
All right.
Samsung Galaxy Note 7, someone says. Yeah.
Okay. I think we can say goodnight to all of our stream viewers. Thank you, everyone, for joining in, for watching the stream. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. We will be back next Tuesday at the same time for the episode 9 of B-Roll. Yeah, because we're on episode 8. So we'll be on episode 9 next week because that's how numbers work. They just continue to go up.
And also, guys, if you guys have any topics you want us to discuss, please remember our Twitter handles in the bottom left and bottom right of the corners of the screen. So at UFDisciple, at Byron Trent.
You can also tag us with hashtag AskBroll.
Yep.
That's totally fine as well. Or also placing them in the Discord server when everything is done.
Let us know what you guys want to discuss in the next episode. And remember, if you want your PCs featured in the next episode, please tag us. Hashtag AskBroll or hashtag at Byron Trent, hashtag at UFDisciple, and we'll feature your PCs in the next episode. And guys, it's not only PCs. If you guys have an awesome gaming setup, retro, console, PC, mobile, I said console twice, Nintendo Switch, anything like that, let us know and we'll feature it.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next week. Cheers, all.
Cheers, guys.
It's